Good evening and welcome to the Ombudsman program. My name is Diane Wellborn. I am the Ombudsman and I'm going to be your host for this evening's program. Tonight, in anticipation of this weekend's Father's Day, we have with us a very special guest this evening. I am pleased to introduce to the viewers Mr. Michael Newsom, who is the Fatherhood Initiative Coordinator for Montgomery County. Welcome, Mike. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Diane.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a very busy week this week in getting ready for all the events, and before the show closes up, we're going to come back and let you tell the viewers everything. But first, I'd like to get started with the work that you do with the Fathers Initiative all throughout the year, not just on the week of when we honor all fathers. Tell our viewers a little bit about the history of the Montgomery County Fatherhood Initiative.
Sure.
How did it come to be?
Sure. The Fatherhood Initiative, Montgomery County Fatherhood Initiative position was really created back in 2010. We had seen that fathers have a special need within the system, dealing with a lot of things that are unique to them. So our leaders at that time came up with a position to try to help fathers kind of navigate through the system and give them a little bit more guidance on some of their issues, which I'm sure we'll talk about throughout the broadcast. But that's really where it came from, trying to be a little bit more holistic in our approach. I was a child support supervisor for the first 10 years of my career, and it was very much, you need to pay your child support, you kind of figure it out, that's up to you. And then things started to move to a more a helping approach, and that's what they decided we needed an entire position dedicated to that, and not just some of us that were already working for child support trying to help with that situation.
Oh, well, good. So the credit then really goes to the county leadership for wanting to reach out and do this. Absolutely. And you were the first person to be selected to serve in this role, correct?
That's correct.
And so you're the original, coordinator for the entire initiative.
That's right.
That's very good. You've been going at this. What you mentioned helping navigate the system, and the system that you are referring to is the Job and Family Services system, and specifically the Division of Child Support within that, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, child support is one of the challenges that fathers face. Not only having to pay child support, figuring out how they're going to pay it, and then also, of course, they have situations where they can't see their children. So parenting time, which some people refer to as visitation, but parenting time also is a big issue. So we try to give them the tools to understand how they can file a motion in court, how they can, they do have rights. Many fathers, especially fathers that are non-custodial parents, feel they don't have any rights at all, and sometimes they've been told that by the mothers, they've been told that by, again, the system and other people. So we try to make sure that they understand they do have rights. As the father, there are a lot of things you can do and to assert your rights, and we try to give them that information. And then, of course, also with children's services as well, similar situation. Oftentimes, kids are taken out of mothers' homes, and the fathers need to step up and take custody. And if you're not familiar with dealing with those systems and the courts and all those different things that you have to do, it can be very intimidating. So we try to be the kind of a liaison between the courts and the guys, so that they understand that there is somebody there to help them, and just because they walk out of court confused, that's not the end of their story. We can find out what exactly it is they need to do and help them move forward, and ultimately be better parents, which is what we all want.
Right, and better for the children too,
right.
Of course.
That's right.
And you're absolutely right that these systems do have their own language. They speak their own language.
That's
they
right.
have their own terms for things that are often not used in our common language there. And in fact, that very expression of I pay my child support every month, but I don't ever get to see my child is a complaint that I'm quite familiar with in the Ombudsman's office. It's that imbalance and that inequity that so many feel. Are there additional goals of the Fatherhood Initiative that you didn't just mentioned?
Well, I mean, our goals are really to be as accessible as possible. You know, we always say you know, the most important ability is availability. You know, so we really want to, you know, we use the term linked as opposed to referred. Referral is, you know, call the fatherhood coordinator for Montgomery County at the Job Center. A link is call Mike Newsom at 496-7569. I'm much more likely to pick up the phone in that scenario because I really feel like somebody wants to help me. I'm not going to get, you know, maybe the run around or get transferred around to different things like that. So that's really, you know, our goal is to try to make the fathers feel comfortable coming to the system. You know, so many of them, especially as we start to talk about the fathers that are returning from incarceration and other things like that, have a real fear of dealing with the system. And so, well, you know, our main goal is to, again, give them that, to give them the information. You know, every father is not going to do what they're supposed to do, just as every mother doesn't. But they should at least have the, you know, the information at their fingertips and know what they should do and what they can do. And you know, at that point, it usually makes them feel a lot better because that sense of hopelessness is what kind of sends them underground, makes them not want to pay their child support, makes them not want to spend time with their children and do all those type of things, and quite frankly, sometimes even leads them into situations where they commit crimes and do other antisocial things like that. So, you know, again, we work on the psyche a lot, I think, you know, of the fathers to try to make sure they understand you are welcome, you are needed, and, you know, these are the things that we can help you do to try to deal with some of the barriers that you're working with.
Right, exactly. Are other communities lucky enough to have fatherhood initiative coordinators in their within their child support systems or other systems?
Well, yeah, there are very few counties. I mean, Stark County came down and shadowed me for a day. I know that they've hired a gentleman to have my position in Stark County. A lot of the other fatherhood work is done by what we call fatherhood practitioners, which are more 501c3 organizations, and many of them do great jobs. You know, we have a couple locally that do well, but, you know, I think our advantage, you know, with my position is I'm kind of on the inside. I can pull up your child support case right there and do a lot of those different things. You know, have access to a lot of the folks that work, you know, inside the system, as well as the courts and different things like that. So, you know, I think that really was the thought process of bringing the position, you know, around so that, you know, we can really, again, kind of be that go-between of somebody. If you're just working with a 501c3, they have to have a connection on the inside to try to get you some of your information. I'm already on the inside, so that really makes a huge difference for the guys. And of course, I work as closely with as many agencies as I can so that they understand that you know, we're here to help their clients as well.
That's great. About how many fathers contact you, let's say, however you want to count it, but
Sure.
maybe monthly?
Sure.
How many?
I usually talk to about 40 fathers a month, either by phone or face-to-face, and that doesn't include a lot of the community outreach that I do. You know, and I said phone or face-to-face. Face-to-face could be in the elevator or, you know, at the soccer game and stuff like that. So I'm kind of known as the child support guy, you know, in a lot of different places, which is fine. I go out and do presentations to a lot of different places to talk about child support and, of course, fatherhood as well. And so, you know, again, it's I think they really appreciate that, having somebody to talk to, having somebody to bounce ideas off of, someone that's not going to, you know, close the door on them, you know, and make them feel like maybe their questions aren't valid, or that you know, hey, you haven't paid your child support. You know, I don't want to talk to you until you start paying your child support. You know, that really is not the approach we take. We give them encouragement, and you know, we'll get to it later, but that's a lot about what our events are about as well, to really encourage fathers that, hey, fatherhood is important, you're important, and you know, we want you to understand that, and we want the community to understand it as well.
And what are some of the most frequent issues or barriers that fathers are bringing to you in these 40 gentlemen that come each month? Do you have a top 5 list, the top 5 questions
sure.
that you get?
I mean, I think child support modifications are probably near the top. Right. You know, my payment is more than I can afford.
All right.
You know, as you alluded to earlier, I'm paying money and it's not being spent on my children the way that I want it to be. I don't get to see the children, of course, is right up there. I need employment as well, is right there, and then other custody issues. Sometimes it could be I have a visitation order, but she's not living up to it. She's not. So we have to talk about the process to possibly send them over to Citizen Services, which is in the juvenile court building, so they can help them file a motion, possibly for contempt and different things like that. So it's those are the main ones. That we do deal with some children's services issues of my children are not in the best environment right now. What can I do? I call Children's Services and I've opened a case and they've been open to me, but I really want somebody to help me move it along a little bit faster. And so those are the type of things that I can get involved with sometime. And again, being on the inside and knowing a lot of the people that are responsible out of Children's Services, sometimes I can get a little bit better results than others.
Well, I'm being told that we have a caller for the program. So, caller, you're on the air. We'd like to hear your question, please. I'm not hearing any question coming forth. So,
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you now, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much for this program. I have to admit, until tonight, I didn't know anything about the Fatherhood Initiative or Network. This is very progressive and forward-looking for Montgomery County, and I'm proud of what I'm learning tonight. I know what a big problem this is, because workmen who have come to my house, frequently their pay is garnished, and I know how that complicates their lives all the way through to ordinary things like bank accounts and so forth. But now my question has to do with the family system. I know that when a family is in trouble, and fathers, of course, need to be supported, but the whole family, is part of a system that needs to be addressed. And I know this is a complicated issue that I'm raising, but I just wanted to see what sort of family system approaches are taken.
Thank you very much for that comment and question, and we'll get your answer or some discussion of that for you. Thank you very much. Well, Mike, we're talking about family systems and how even a gentleman caller there that has come into, has met workmen that come into his home. Child support's a topic, it looks like, in that regard. And what kind of supports do you draw upon or link people to how are you helping with the family systems?
Yeah, he makes a great point. I mean, because fatherhood and fathers, they really affect the entire family. So I mean, that's what we again, we do try to support the whole family. With me working at Job and Family Services, we can link to different services that the custodial parent, often the mother, can access, whether it be Medicaid, food stamps, different things like that, to help her with her situation. And then but again, often getting the father on his feet is really a big, I get asked all the time, of course, the obvious question, you do all this stuff for fathers, what are you doing for mothers? And I always say, I'm helping the fathers do better. That's going to have a huge impact on the mothers, because not only will they start to pay their child support, which will be financial support, but they'll do a lot better job of just being parents and helping out the mother with all the obligations, the time obligations that she has to deal with, especially if you have multiple children. So again, his point is well taken. We work mostly with fathers, but certainly we don't turn down any clients that come our way.
Okay. Are you able to link for the family system approach? Are you able to link further than the county system into some of our nonprofits that do counseling? And why don't you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, sometimes we've worked with Marriage Works, and other organizations that will help with counseling and those type of things. We have a variety of services that we can send them to, just to give them the information that they need, so that they understand that, especially even though you're not together, you still have to co-parent. So I think that's maybe somewhat what he's alluding to. With the mothers, dealing with the situation where the father's being struggling with child support and those type of things, and again, so yeah, we do what we can with those situations. Counseling is probably not our long suit as far as that goes, but we have, again, Marriage Works. There's another organization called Faces that we work with, and our approach is very much on a case-by-case basis, and that's again, kind of my advantage of not carrying a caseload. As each one comes, if something is unique, I can really go out and get it for the client, and so that's what we do. And like I said, I would never, it's called the Fatherhood Initiative, but I do work at Job and Family Services, and we serve everybody.
Right. Well, you mentioned getting the father back on his feet, or helping the father move forward. Certainly employment is one of the most key features for that. It's what everybody needs. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit more about what is available to help fathers who come to your program to take advantage of your initiative. What happens to them within the employment arena?
Absolutely. I mean, our number one linkage with employment, of course, is our development services office at the Job Center, formerly known as Workforce Development is the name many folks know it by, but they're right there in the Job Center. They do a great job. They'll get you signed up for OhioMeansJobs.com. They'll link you with a lot of different.
I'm sorry. Just say what that is.
Yeah, it's a huge database of of jobs throughout the country, really, that gives you a lot of information. And really, when you get behind on child support, you should sign up for that automatically. So you should be signed up for that. And they will sit down with you over at Development Services and find out exactly what it is you need, what you're trying to do with your career, which way you're trying to go. I mean, everybody that comes in there is not somebody that has only worked fast food or whatever. There are a lot of folks that are professionals that have been laid off or have had some different things go on. So it's a very high-tech, well-run area, and so we really start there. Other than development services, we have our Seek Work program, which is run by Rescare Workforce Services, and they're contracted with the county, and they do an excellent job as well. They really have been set up to service non-custodial parents that are behind on child support. That's really their main focus, but anybody can use their service. And again, with us having the world-renowned job center that we do, and I'm not saying that lightly, it really is world-renowned. We have all these services under the same roof, so we're very proud about that. But and then lastly, of course, we have the Montgomery County Office of Ex-Offender Reentry, which deals with a lot of non-custodial parents who have the barrier of having a felony or misdemeanor or any other jail sentence in their background, which is a very unique challenge, of course. And Quinn Howard and the folks over there, and Jamie G and Amy Piner, they take care of those concerns, and they have done a great job of linking with employers that are open to hiring folks that have criminal backgrounds. So we try to have as many services as possible so that no one slips through the cracks.
Okay. And if anyone watching the program now or in the future is interested in approaching these services, they can, of course, come to you, and they'll give you your phone number again, but they can also go directly. They don't have to go through you. They can just go to the job center and go into the mall there and find these services. That's right.
Development Services has their own door. When the Job Center 2.0, as they call it, when it was renovated, we pretty much all have our own entrance. Child support does, Development Services does as well, and the Office of Ex-Offender Reentry is right down the hall from there, and so is Rescare. So they can go directly there, or like you said, they can always reach out to me.
Okay, very, very good. And so you say that the Ohio Means Jobs is one of the databases that they're looking at. So are there particular places of employment where many of those served end up in different types of work?
Well, it's a huge database. It's run by monster.com as well. So I mean, it's very powerful, but we try to stay away from a lot of times giving lists and different things like that, especially when you're talking about what we call returning citizens, folks coming back from incarceration, because sometimes that can be misleading, as far as folks that will hire and this and that. So, again, that's why we prefer that you kind of use our services, because then we can reach out for you. And whether you're talking about development services or the Office of Reentry or Seek Work program, the advantage of using those services is that they will advocate for you. So as an employer, I'm feeling very secure because I know that you've already gotten some training. You've already, been told, hey, here's how you need to act on the job. And not only that, but I have that security of, well, if this guy doesn't work out, I can always call the who referred them and say, hey, you sent me somebody that's not that great. And so then, that gives them a little bit more accountability. And, again, gives you, as a client, you're a step ahead of somebody else that applied, that just came in off the street, because you already have that backing of of a strong organization. So that's really what we try to do, because everybody's situation is so different. It's hard to say, and you said earlier, and you're right 95% of the time, that everybody needs a job. But sometimes when folks are coming out of incarceration, there's some other things they need to work on first, before they get the job. And so then, again, those things are taken care of, then let's help you find a job. So again, once you get involved with the services, then those are the things that even though you may not know them, we're going to make sure you get those.
Okay, so they're providing all kinds of different types of job training based on what the person's skills and interests are.
Absolutely.
So they tailor it then. Do you also take advantage of any employment services that are outside the job center? Do you refer to others out in the community, or do you pretty much work with the ones you've already mentioned?
Yeah, we stay within for the most part, only because again, with us working for the county, you want to be accountable for who you're working with. So those three that we mentioned, one is contracted by the agency, by the county, and the other two actually are county agencies. So we feel very comfortable with them, and we try to use them as much as possible. Again, not to put down any other services and those type of things,
Sure.
but just we go with what we know. We take great care, because often with our clients, sometimes, as I mentioned, there's some hesitation to deal with us to begin with. So we want to make sure we treat them right on the first on our first time that we deal with them, because often if we don't, they may not come back, and that's bad for everybody,
Right.
So that's we want to make sure we give them the best service the first time, and by working with people we're comfortable with, we can kind of ensure that happens.
Oh, that's good. And then, is there a cost to be involved in any of these training services for the fathers?
Yeah, no, there's no cost to go in and get your assessment and all those type of things. There's no cost to go through the Seek Work program or the Office of Ex-Offender Reentry. None of those situations cost any money. They're funded by various sources, and you can come in and take advantage of everything. So that's why again, oftentimes I think people feel maybe a little ashamed that they have to come in or different things like that. But I encourage everybody to come in and see what's out there. Just to find out, and the folks that have come in. I think that generally they're very happy with that they did, because things are a lot different than what they thought. It's not just somebody trying to give them lip service and say, hey, fill this form out, and we're never going to call you back, and that type of thing. It's really one-on-one, again, holistic, and very the atmosphere is much better than clients believe or understand. And so I think that it's again, we don't charge, and we make sure that we treat them right.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the issue of visitation, and also why the background of some of the fathers who may be reluctant. I mean, historically, child support was not viewed as a helping agency. I mean, it's very legalistic. It's what they're ordered to pay.
That's right.
And just like any debt,
That's right.
there are the consequences to not making good on that debt, and we can go back to some of those in a few minutes.
Sure.
So there may be some very natural reluctance
That's right.
in approaching this system.
That's right.
When it comes to visitation, are we seeing now that when child support orders are being given by the courts that visitation is being included? Because there was a time when
Right.
it was all about the money,
Right.
and there wasn't anything else.
Right.
So are we seeing movement in that?
We are. We actually, Montgomery County actually participated in a pilot program that 12 counties throughout the state participated in. It's called PTOC, which is Parenting Time Opportunities for Children, where once the order is set up for you to pay, so you're set up to pay $300 a month, at the same time, we're going to give you the opportunity to get a standard visitation order. So the mother and father have to agree to it, but you do get the chance at that point, since the child support enforcement's hearing officers are attorneys, so they can help with that process right there. They take the information and they send it to court to be filed, and then you walk out not only owing a monthly obligation, but you also now have some visitation or parenting time, a standard order. Now, if you want to do a variance on that, a deviation, and say, hey, we want to kind of change that up a little bit, then you have to go to court. Or if either of the parties doesn't agree that they want to do it at that time, it's not forced upon them. But you do get that opportunity, which is something that was never there before. So at least that's a baseline thing. So we're very excited about that. Our county did a great job at it. We actually did more orders than the other 11 combined. And although the pilot period is over, we are continuing with the program. So that, again, for me as the fatherhood coordinator, was a great thing to be able to go out and say, and talk about. And so, yeah, it's another one of those things to say that we don't just look at you as a paycheck. We look at you, we're trying to value you as a parent, and we want you to be able to see your kids. And at the end of the day, it's better for the children. It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're still then getting, you still do deal probably daily with questions about visitation. Kind of walk us through what you would be able to do for a father that comes in and says, I'm not able to visit my children.
Sure.
How do you break that down, and then what steps do you take to help bring the visitation along?
Sure. Well, what we do, again, we will generally link them with the Citizen Services office, but we do let them know what is going to happen when you get over there. They're going to give you what's called a pro se packet, which means you can file it on your own, and then they'll help you. Not necessarily, they're not going to represent you in court or anything like that, but they will tell you what you need to do as far as getting that filed. And the main thing is we let them know that it's not a real intimidating process, and that unless you have some major barriers and some major legal reasons that it's not going to happen, you have a very high chance of getting at least some kind of parenting time. So I think a lot of them think, oh well, I've been arrested before, or I have a warrant, or I have this, or I have that, different things have happened. I'm not even going to try it. So we try to, let them know, hey, still give it a chance and try it, and then, things can go from there. And oftentimes, really, the mothers are, can be, are more open to it than they think, but the thing is with the fathers, or non-custodial parents in general, but the fathers, is that, you have to really be serious about it. You can't just at one moment say, well, I want to see my kids, and then you don't live up to your end of the bargain, and you can't get this order to see your kids every other weekend or every other Wednesday, and then don't live up to it, and then expect the mother to just let you come in whenever you feel like it. So that's a big part of what we do with the Fatherhood Initiative is holding fathers accountable for their actions as well. I think a lot of people have the thought that what we do is try to let them off the hook or be soft with them and that type of thing. It's really totally the opposite. We try to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do and be accountable. And once they do that, things really start to turn around for them. The agency looks at them a lot differently. Their relationship with the system gets a lot better. The relationship with the mom gets a lot better. And so, things, again, move in the right direction.
Okay, very, very good. And is that still one of the most frequent calls? Is about visitation for you that you're dealing with? Okay.
It is. I mean,
right.
visitation is near the top, but again, a lot of it is inconsistency on both parties' part. I want to emphasize that. I don't want to come across as the moms aren't letting the guys see the kids. Sometimes that's the case, but sometimes the fathers are not stepping up like they should as well.
Well, that's the best parenting, is consistency.
That's
for
right.
For sure.
That's right.
Then also, our laws also bring these consequences for child support that's owed, and individuals may have a license suspension.
That's right.
And that happens when when payments are not made,
Right.
and it's the agency's way of kind of tapping you on the back and say, hey, we're here.
Excuse me.
Yes, excuse me. We're going to suspend your license. So I'm sure those come to you as well. So why don't you tell our viewers what can be done for dads who need to get this reinstated? Of course, the simplest thing is to pay the money.
That's right.
But what can you do in addition?
Well, I mean, just a little history on the license suspension. I was one of the point people back in when it started, about 01, 02. And so that, as you mentioned, that tool came about to really get the attention of folks that weren't paying child support. It was one of the few tools where we did not need your address to implement. So whereas you may ignore letters and phone calls and different things like that, the license suspension could be done administratively, and it can be done, basically with the stroke of a key on the computer, and then the non-custodial parent makes that illegal left turn and gets pulled over, and his license is suspended, and then our phone tends to ring, and he starts to want to address the child support situation. So, but to your point, I mean, we don't want to use it as a barrier. We want to we do have to enforce the support order, so we have to do whatever we can to do that within the law. But in order to get your license back, all you have to do is report an employer that we can send a withholding order to. You can't say I opened up my own lawn mowing service, so I have a job, so reinstate my license. That's not going to work. But if you say, hey, I got a job at Kroger, and we can send a withholding order. Once the withholding order is issued, the job is verified, then we will lift our block. So, and then also, if you want to pay, then you can pay 3 monthly payments, and then we will lift our block, that way as well. So we work with guys on that as much as possible. Our goal has always been, to get the payments coming in. That's really, it's not about, we're not on mom's side, we're not on dad's side. We have that order. Guys throughout the years have told me everything is set up for the moms. Everything's not set up for the moms. Everything's set up for the kids. And 90% of the time, the mothers have custody of the kids. So that's why it sounds that way. But fathers that get custody, they get the same service. The mothers get their license suspended or whatever, get taken to court. Found in contempt, etc. All those things go on. So it's the same thing that goes both ways. But license suspension has been controversial at times. But really, I think it's been a good tool, especially the way Montgomery County has applied it, where we've applied it as again, like you said, we just did that to get your attention. If you have a job, let us know, and we'll lift the block right away. And even if you can prove that you can get a job, and all that's holding you back is the license, we'll still be very flexible with you as far as helping you get your license back. So, those are the things that that we do to try to make sure that both sides are served. As working at the Ombudsman's Office, the child support cases are two-sided. So for every non-custodial parent that we're quote unquote soft on, we're taking money out of the custodial parent's pocket, and next thing you know, she'll be calling. So we have to be fair, as far as that goes. And at the agency, most of the time, it's dad needs to pay the mom, and we do what we can to facilitate that.
Can you speak to how many blocks you all are assisting to remove in these, when you get these 40 individuals a month that you're working with, how
Sure.
many of them come to you with a block on the license that needs to be dealt with so
Sure.
they can
Sure,
get
yeah.
back to work?
Yeah, I would say that I probably look to release probably, I'd say 10 or so a month.
Okay.
Because I talk to a lot of guys. I go to what's called the imposition docket, which is over in Magistrate Scott's court, where the guys are, well, usually the guys, but the non-custodial parents are, they're deciding whether they're going to send them to jail or not for non-payment of support. They've already been found in contempt. And so I often talk to the guys after court, after their hearing, and that's one of their big barriers often is, I don't have my license, and so even when they're working, they don't understand that all you have to do is, report your employment, and we'll go ahead and take care of it. So a lot of times I can take care of that very quickly.
That's good. I'm being told we have another caller.
Okay.
So I'd like to hear your question. You're on the air.
Yes, I'm very impressed with the practicality of this fatherhood initiative and the one-on-one approach that's taken to each one of those 40 men that call in each month. My question is just a little bit different. I'm an educator, and I know how important motivation is, and having role models. And I'm also a father, and in my own attempt to be a good father, role models have been important for me and have inspired me. So I guess I'm asking about whether there is any sort of educational component or motivational component, and what sort of fathers could serve as role models for men who are doing, some of the most difficult work in the world. To be a father, so difficult in our society today. Thank you.
And thank you for that question. Well, he took us right to a place that we needed to go to talk about the other supports that are available in the community around. Because you mentioned that that most need jobs, but there's other people that need to take care of either educational issues or other issues first, and motivation is really important, I think, in striving in our lives. So why don't you answer his question with your resources?
Yeah, it was a great question. Urban Light Ministries does work here in Montgomery County now. They're based out of Springfield, but they got a grant through the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood to do work in Montgomery and Clark County. So they have an office with us now, and they do a good job of mentoring guys, and helping them with a lot of the things, a lot of the barriers. They have classes that they put them through just to try to help them be better fathers and different things like that. So that's one resource we have. We also, again, I'll go back to the Office of Ex-Offender Reentry. The Office of Ex-Offender Reentry does 3-week cohorts with their participants, and so during that 3 weeks, you're going to get a lot of different services come in and talk to you about things that they have a variety of partners. I'm one of them, of course, that comes in and talks to the guys just to try to motivate them, to use the caller's term, to motivate them, to let them know, hey, you can do it. Try to be a little bit more of an encourager and those type of things. So, again, what we try to do also that's very important, I think a lot of people overlook, is use peer support. Because as Judge Rice always says, if you haven't been through something, you can understand it here, but you can't understand them here. And so they're able to, the peers really do a great job once they get into working with some of us that have maybe been at this for a little while and maybe have grown up in some different circumstances. Then they are very big encouragers of each other, and they really are often the best encouragers of each other, because again, they understand what they're going through, and quite frankly, once again, no matter how well we do still represent the system. I had one young lady that came out of federal court said, I said, look at you guys, you guys are still the police as far as I'm concerned. So you have to acknowledge that's the way that is, and we can do as much as we can to try to mentor and help them And we always need more mentors. You know, I know the Mentoring Collaborative is at the Job Center, and there are other faith-based organizations that do great jobs with those type of things. But you know, again, I think that the peer support, once we're able to get them into our programming, is really probably the most effective thing that I've seen.
Yeah, and I would imagine so, because that can go on. Most people who are lucky enough to have good role models as parents have had some of that going on, but not everyone has had that available. And then parenting, as the caller said, can be very tough at times.
That's right.
And making the right decisions is not always easy. So everybody needs a person to talk to or support.
Right, and like you say, especially if you haven't been shown the way before, you know, and I think that that's something we have to acknowledge, is that you know, people talk about the choices that you know, some of our clients make and those type of things. You know, many of them, their choices, you know, were not the same choices as some of us grew up with. And so we have to try to kind of bridge that gap and as they say, you know, stand in the gap and try to help them, you know, make up the difference there.
Let's talk a little bit more then about the barriers from a prior conviction and how those come into the whole child support system and what can be done to assist with those.
Absolutely.
In the office, how you work with the Office of Reentry as well.
Well, the first thing, of course, obviously, it makes it difficult to get employed. You know, if you have a prior conviction, you know, a lot of employers, you know, quite frankly, you know, just are still, even in 2017, are still close to the idea of hiring folks, and there are even more that, you know, specific offenses that you may have committed, I mean, will really be a huge barrier for you. But and so we're very fortunate in Montgomery County to have the Montgomery County Office of Ex-Offender Reentry. They've been around since 2009. They started as a grant-funded organization, and they did such fantastic work and continue to do such fantastic work that they're now a county agency, you know, so which is almost unheard of. But with the leadership of Commissioner Debbie Lieberman and Judge Walter Rice, you know, they have really, you know, taken things to the next level as far as that goes. Their recidivism rates are generally about half or even less than the state recidivism rate, you know, folks that go through their program. So again, they do such a great job of really being hands-on. Quinn Howard, who's a good friend of mine, Quinn was a returning citizen from many years ago, but has 2 master's degrees, is just a great guy and can really gives the cohorts that he deals with that personal touch when they come in. And so that's, I really try to funnel a lot of people through them. I happen to teach at DCI for Sinclair in the evenings. And so I try to send the ladies there, you know, through them, because, you know, again, they understand and they get that peer support once again, because everybody in that class is going through the same thing, you know. And so then when they walk out of there, they can say, hey, did you hear about this job lead? Did you hear about that? And all those different type of things. And Quinn goes out and establishes relationships with employers so that they already know, you know, what's going on, you know, when the person is coming to them. So they know they've gone through this program. They have a background, so there's no surprise. They're not going to interview you and like you and then get your background check and say, oh, we didn't know, you know. So you already know up front. And not only do you know that I have a background, but you know that I've been taught all these different things, and I have a certificate, and I have, you know, I've accomplished some things, and I'm the type of person that knows how to learn. So those are really the, you know, the Montgomery County Office of Ex-Offender Reentry. I mean, it's just, you know, I just can't say enough about them, because they do great work, and the clients speak even more glowingly than I do, you know. So they do excellent job. And so I think just employment is number one, but it is also a barrier to see your kids sometimes, because, you know, especially if you had a violent offense and different things like that. So, you know, again, we try to do what we can to get them the information we need. We're in the process now of setting up a legal clinic at the Job Center, collaborating with the Volunteer Lawyers Project, and you know, Judge Rice is involved, and Rudy Wayner from the Public Defender's Office, you know, and Randy Smith over at the CAP. You know, so we're just trying to and I'm sorry, Kelly and Ricci, of course, VLP, but you know, again, just to try to give the guys somebody that a place to go to so that they can kind of deal with some of their issues, whether it be expungement, not being able to see their children, all those different type of things. Because we're finding out that helping them, again, helps everybody. I mean, even if you don't want to do it for altruistic reasons, logically speaking, as long as they are able to come back and be productive citizens, that helps, all of us.
Okay, very, very good. Does it, is there anything on the horizon, either legislatively or just being talked about within child support systems, that might make some modifications with the child support system and ex-offenders? I mean, it's the order continues to build.
Sure.
The order
Sure.
continues to build while the
Sure.
person has absolutely no
Right.
opportunity to pay because they are in prison.
Right.
So how is this system being looked at by anybody?
It is. I mean, the child support, you can apply for a modification now while you're incarcerated, which has not always been the case.
Right.
And there's been recent legislation. I'm not as well versed on it maybe as I could. It should be, because it's very recent.
Right.
But there has been recent legislation about not treating someone going to incarceration as something they did that was their fault. Whereas before, when you're looking at the modification process, generally speaking, it needs to be something that was not your fault, like you got laid off, different things like that. Then modification would be considered, to get your payment lowered. But if you did something that maybe was a fault of yours, you quit, you got fired because you didn't come to work, those type of things, and incarceration had been grouped with those, and things are looking like they're going to be turning around in that area. So again, without getting into too many specifics, but those are ideas, and kind of, I think that's kind of where you were going. Those type of things are working. But keep in mind too, when you come out of incarceration, your balance is not. It's a concern, of course, because you have to deal with that balance.
Right.
But as far as the agency goes, we just want you to contact us and start moving in the right direction. Maybe it's go to the Office of Ex-Offender Reentry, start doing the things that you can do, and we'll work with you. We're not, no one's looking to beat you up about the time that you didn't pay while you were incarcerated. It just doesn't make any sense. We even have a special caseload set up for folks that are returning from incarceration, and those cases are dealt with in a certain way, and given some time to get on their feet. So we're very sensitive to that issue.
Okay. Are there other services that you haven't yet mentioned in the program that maybe I don't know to ask you about that you should share with our viewers?
Well, I mean, I think that those are the main ones that we use. Okay. There's, like I said, it just depends on what folks need, and again, our whole focus is trying to serve the whole family, trying to make sure that fathers understand their importance, because this is something that mothers are good at. Mothers can have lint in their pocket and say, I'm raising a child, I'm doing something important. Fathers, we tend to get turned into ATMs, right? And so, it's bad enough if you're an ATM, even if you have a decent job, but if you're an empty ATM, then I mean your self-worth really goes down. And so that's really what we're all about. Those services and everybody that we deal with is, yes, we want you to pay your child support, okay, and those type of things, but ultimately it's really, we want you to be a good parent. I told you I go to the imposition docket every week. Virtually every week that I'm there, some mother that's owed child support, money's owed to her, she goes up and sits by our SEA attorney and waives thousands upon thousands of dollars of back child support. And they all say the same thing: I just wanted him to start being a father. He started being a father, he started coming around, he started acting like he cared about our kids. I'm not really concerned about that $12,000, from before. I know he was incarcerated, he had some struggles. So I say that to say that that's, really what we try to do with all of our services, is let them know if you start acting a certain way, things will will go better for you than you think.
That's an excellent point. Well, that kind of does move us to, and the time that we have left moves us into talking about the very special events that are going on this weekend. I received this wonderful postcard, which I'll let you talk about. So it's going to all get kicked off on Friday evening of this week. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
We're very excited. It's our 6th annual Celebrate Fatherhood Montgomery County event. The Friday evening event is when Dayton Public Schools kids, they've already submitted art projects about their fathers. And so what they'll do is they'll come to the Vineyard Church on the corner of Main and Helena, and hopefully with their dads. Normally they do, dads and moms and the rest of the family. And they come out and they talk about their project, and why they express themselves that way about their father or father figure. So that to give them the pride of, and again, it's educational as well. They're doing a project, and that portion is really led by Joni Watson, who is a teacher over at Horace Mann, an art teacher, a longtime art teacher, and just a very beloved teacher, quite frankly. And she does a great job. Joni joined us a couple of years ago and has really taken us to another level with the art contest. So that's on Friday. We do that. Then, of course, anything that I'm involved with, we're going to feed you. So we do have pizza and other snacks, on that evening, and we also have great giveaways. Everybody that participates gets a nice gift. You're talking backpacks and tablets and different things like that. So we're very fortunate with our sponsors have been very generous and helped us, with those type of things. So that's the Friday piece where we'll, be a little dressed up and do all that. Then on Saturday, we shift over to Island Park and, get the shorts and t-shirts on and go outside and do a huge picnic pretty much, where we'll have the grill going and get everybody, hot dog or hamburger or whatever they want. And then we have at least 30 service providers set up there under a huge tent as well. And so you go visit the service providers and come back, and we'll get you a ticket to go get some food. We have entertainment on the stage. A great local band called Top Secret will be performing this year. They performed last year as well. Doug Horvath of Metro Parks is coming. He does an outdoors program with the kids. He's going to be bringing some live animals this year. Just a lot of different things, again, to keep kids entertained, to educate folks, and also, of course, to give them a chance to spend time with their father, in a great setting, in a very safe and nurturing type setting. And so we do our events on Friday and Saturday, so you can do your traditional thing with your dad on Sunday, which is actually Father's Day.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And what time does the Friday evening art contest kick off?
Friday we go from 6 to about 8:30 generally, and then on Saturday we go 11 to 4. So again, the event has grown each year. And it's just gotten better and better. And again, I think that's because of our sponsors. And the fact that, again, we really put a lot of care into it. We have various folks from different agencies that work on my committee that, that put it together. And, they really give their time, and they really care about kids and fatherhood. And I just want to make sure I make note as well that, our committee is very diverse as far as gender goes. It's not just a bunch of guys sitting around talking about fatherhood. We make sure we have women involved because fathers are equally as important to girls as boys. I have a son and daughter myself, and I think I was equally as important to both. So I think that, again, that's really what we try to do with the event, is make it about the clients and make it about the community.
Okay. And I'm sure you want to take this opportunity to thank those sponsors that are helping out.
Sure.
We're all very busy right now getting ready for the weekend.
Sure. I don't have the whole list in front of me, but I do, again, we have our bigger sponsors are Care Source, and of course the Montgomery County Job and Family Services, and Buckeye Health Plan as well, and Colbert Health and Wellness also contributed, and again, and Ohio Commission on Fatherhood gives us a grant every year to pull off our event. So again, we just are very excited about it, And you know, people are coming up to me all the time asking me when it's coming up and all that type of stuff. So it's just a good feeling that you know, folks have at least one, and we do have another event as well that you know, per year that they can look forward to.
Good.
So, yeah.
And I'd like to ask you to give your phone number again.
Sure.
You did earlier in the hour, but now that you're talking about the event, people might want to say, "Oh, I heard something, but I didn't have a pencil at
That's
the
right.
time." So give them your phone number.
Sure, you can reach me at 937-496-7569. It's 496-7569. That rings directly to me, so I will get get the info, and you know, again, everybody's welcome. It's free, and you know, we'll just be happy to see you out at Island Park. The bridge is out on the side over near Riverside, so
Right.
you probably want to come in on the Kiowee side
Right.
to Island Park. But other than that, we're looking for hopefully good weather and you know, a good time for sure.
Well, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
we wish you all success with that
Thank you.
event. Is there anything else you'd like to add as we need to close shortly?
Well, no, just that you know, once again, fathers are very important, you know, and when we have dealt with our work throughout the years, and grown-ups have broken down and cried about their father, they never say, "He didn't buy me a car, he didn't take me to Kings Island." They say, "He didn't come to my game, he didn't show up when I needed him to show up." And people like me that were fortunate to grow up with a great dad, I don't really remember anything he bought me hardly. I remember him being there. And so that's what your kids are going to remember about you, is being there or not. You know, so again, whether you've been incarcerated, whether you don't have a lot of income, it doesn't matter. Show up for your kids, be there for them. You'll figure it out, you know, what to do once you get there. But don't be hesitant to spend time with your kids, and that's really what we're constantly trying to promote.
Great. Well, thank you very much for all this good information. I wish you all the best in your work with this initiative, and thank you to the viewers for watching this evening. Good night.